Hello, folks. Welcome to this episode of Al's Joint. As me and my co-host Dennis Painter delve into the aftermath of the Charlie Kirk shooting and update you on the Epstein scandal that continues to rock this nation. So as we pay homage to Smokey Robinson and the miracles, let's take the gloves off and let's get at it. Hello, brother Painter. Here we are again.
Yes, we are.
A ton of news to go over, starting with the Charlie Kirk shooting and the aftermath of that. And later on, we'll give folks an update on the Jeffrey Epstein fiasco and the hearing that are taking place in Congress. But with Charlie Kirk, news cycle's been all over the place. It started off with, after the shooting, there's some progressive left-wing person shot Charlie Kirk. Then after the truth came out and they found out it was some far right-wing MAGA nut who did it, they started looking for other excuses. Now they started hey, he was transitioning or he might be a transgender. And I guess when that fails, they'll say that Obama and Hillary had something to do with it. What do you think about the aftermath of the shooting?
Well, I think right away, Al, pretty clear, without any evidence, Trump and the vice president, and I'm going to call him what he is, JD Dance, because he just dances to every lie that Trump wants him to. They use that to call the Democratic Party the radical lefts and the leftists, and that we're going to go after them and we're going to shut this down. This one news agency saying, yeah, this is war. We're going to have war now. And I think the Charlie Kirk thing was and is an opportunity for Trump to put himself out there and try to get a civil war going. I think that's really what he wants. But looking at, Charles Kirk, the type of person he was a conservative. He was Trump's voice in a lot of ways. He consistently was racist, who's said Vice President Harris was directly responsible for all illegal immigrants in the United States. And then the killing of George Floyd by the Minneapolis police officer, he just called George Floyd a scumbag. And it just tells you the type of person he was. Now, that doesn't mean that we should take things into our own hands and kill people, but it shows the type of person he was. And he's following Trump. My opinion is he's smarter than Trump. He had a following that was growing tremendously. And this might have been an opportunity for Trump to get his followers without having to worry about Charles Kirk.
I think that he made a living and became rich because he jumped on the Trump wagon, but he figured out a way to be more polished on how he normalized racism and sexism and being a misogynist and being a separatist. He figured out a way to bring God into those discussions, bring Jesus into those discussions. And I think that, to me, when you try to make Jesus into these things, then the church loses, right? Because now you have young folks saying that I can go to church, I can be a child of God, and I can be a racist and a sexist and a pedophile and a misogynist, and it's okay. And I can watch kids being ripped away from their families and deported, even though they've done nothing wrong. And it's okay because I do it under the banner of Jesus Christ.
Well, I will say this, Al. There are some pastors and some churches speaking out in terms of what's going on with Trump and what he's trying to do in this country. They're the same ones that are calling saying violence is not the answer to, our problem that's going on now. There's been nothing but complete chaos since Trump has taken over, and that what they're advocating is what, Martin Luther King advocated was nonviolence. Everything I see going on is the Republican Party, being Trump, all the way down his administration, and a lot of his supporters are advocating violence. And if you remember back during the 2016 elections, who was showing up at the rallies and stuff with military style rifles? It was the right-wing militia and Trump supporters, and they continue to do that. Now, how they could call the Democrats, who have consistently, tried to introduce legislation to reduce gun violence by regulating guns, and say that we're the problem or the leftists are the problem, is shows a lack of knowledge by their followers about what's really going on in this country. Now, I don't want to get into the Second Amendment, because the Second Amendment says what it says, but they're using it, to say that we are the terrorists. If you look back on who are really the terrorists, the 2020 plot to kidnap the Michigan governor, Gretchen Whitmer, by the extremist group that was called Wolverine Watchmen, Adam Fox and Barry Croft Jr. were convicted of the attempted kidnapping. Where was the outrage then by the Republican Party? Where was the outrage by Trump saying, oh, this is a right-wing group? Where was that outrage? There was none. And then you look at the January 6th attack on the Capitol. Trump instigated that. He encouraged that. He waited and let people break into the Capitol without doing a thing, knowing full well they were breaking into the Capitol. People died, some of them by suicide, but he could have stopped that. Who's really the terrorist? Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. And you look at right now what's going on in this country with ICE. ICE is going around abducting men, women, and children, and we don't know where they're sending them to. We don't know where they're holding them. And they're abducting them at the orders of Trump. J.D. Vance is getting out there repeating what Trump said is it's the Democratic leftists that are radicals and they're the terrorists. And what they're saying is we're going to put an end to that. We're going to stop all of them. And that means we're going to lose our freedom of speech or freedom of movement. They're going to be shutting down organizations that they believe are on the left, which is actually just funding for, people to get an education on free speech in this country. And they're going to shut that stuff down. They don't want free speech. You look at what's happening in the media. They attack the media every single time something negative comes about Trump. For them to jump on and say that the Democratic Party or the leftists was behind the killing of Charlie Kirk without having any information whatsoever, and later to find out what they were saying was a lie. And then the Utah Governor Cox saying,
I know he changed his tune, right? He came
yeah,
out.
he changed. Yeah,
He said something that was disturbing to me. He said that I was hoping that it wasn't one of us. That is the most ridiculous thing. Why wouldn't you just hope nobody would do something like
right.
that? And then he went on Fox News. They must have told him, look, quit preaching this kumbaya stuff. And then he started on we think he's a transgender. That's not your job as a governor to spread those type rumors. They think that they can control the narrative by just lying and lying and lying. They were out before anybody knew anything, blaming the left, because I think they knew that something was up. In Utah, come on, how are you going to find a liberal progressive folks in Utah? One of the reddest counties in the country, right?
They're the
That's not
state.
going to happen. But my thoughts are with Charlie Kirk is that with the aftermath, the people who are whining and have problem with what folks are saying, you can't be a hypocrite. You can't say that it was okay for Charlie to say all those things because of the First Amendment rights, but then get mad when people are responding to him after he died. They still have their First Amendment rights. You can't have it both ways. Let's put it this way. How you die does not erase how you lived. Just because he died violently, nobody deserves that. But when you die, people are going to go back and look at how you lived. And that's what they're going to judge you on. They're not going to judge you on how you died. They're going to judge you on how you lived.
Well, I look at it in terms of the alleged killer. They said he's a transgender. Who gets on that bandwagon of being opposed to transgenders? Okay. It's going to be the MAGA folks. Okay. Because they have no leeway for people that are different. This country was, I'm just going to use the word founded, but it wasn't founded. It was stolen. And it was stolen from Native Americans. And it was the white, rich people that developed a constitution saying we the people, but they excluded most of the people. And that war between the whites and people of color has been going on forever. We've had to fight that war forever and want to continue to have to fight it. It is that group of people, in my opinion, these Caucasians, for some reason, they're threatened by somebody who chooses something different than them. They've always seek power, just like they were saying with Charlie Kirk, the Democratic left-wing terrorist. Well, they called the Native Americans savages to justify killing the men, taking their land, raping the women, and putting them on reservations. So they've always used certain words that will appeal to the white group to get what they want. And that's what J.D. Vance did. That's what the news media has done on the right. That's what Trump did right out the gate.
I would add that the folks that are going around saying that he may be transgender, there's transgender folks in every party. There are conservative gays, there are progressive gays, there are independent gay folks. It's a broad group. But if your party's message is so violent and so filled with hate that you can take a far right-wing nut transgender, that's a problem with your message. Because I can honestly say that the left has always been known as the softer side. We've always been labeled that too soft. Now all of a sudden they try to make us into we're GI Joes,
Yeah.
GI Janes. Now, when did that happen? When did we take the masculinity of the
Well,
Republicans and bring it into the liberal camp? I don't understand that.
Well, I sit across the table, being a union rep with attorneys that were gay, and believe me, they didn't vote on the leftist side. They were hateful. So your comment about gay people being everywhere, that's true. Whether left, middle, right, that's true. The other thing I see going on here, Al, is something that you and I both know about. We studied, as being part of the labor movement, is what happened in the 50s when McCarthy started calling everyone a communist if they had liberal ideas or if they spoke out. And it was writers and poets and actors and union organizers and agitators, union people, churches. And what McCarthy was doing was building his own political standing based off of calling people communists unless you signed an anti-communist affidavit. They used that to divide this country in the 1950s. It's the same thing now. It's the same method, but different words. It's a repeat of history. Unfortunately, we're repeating it. It's a mistake. It was a mistake back in the 50s. It's a mistake now.
I just want to leave this segment with letting folks know that we feel for Charlie Kirk's family, just like I feel for anybody who dies, whether they're shot or if they die from natural causes. That's natural. But you're still held accountable for how you lived.
I want to say this, and then we can move on, is let's have our differences. Let's voice our differences. Let's have it out, but let's not kill each other over them.
Well said. So we're going to transition over to, I want to look at this video quickly about the hearings that are going on the Epstein case in Congress.
Nice. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Patel, before you joined the FBI, you had very strong opinions about what the FBI was hiding regarding Jeffrey Epstein. In a September 2023 interview with Glenn Beck, you said the Black Book is under the, quote, direct control of the director of the FBI. In December 2023, you said, let us know who the pedophiles are. Even for a short time after becoming FBI director, in February of 2025, you tweeted, quote, there will be no cover-ups, no missing documents, no stone left unturned. In June, you told Joe Rogan, quote, we've reviewed all the information, we're gonna give you every single thing we have and can. But then suddenly in July, everything changed. You and Attorney General Pam Bondi released one video and said that there was nothing more to see. Your July memo says you uncovered more than 300 gigabytes of data and physical evidence.
So the hearing started on the Epstein, and it's important for us to point this out, that all these distractions, either this is the craziest of times or there's something afoot here. Every 2 or 3 days, the Trump administration is trying to do something to take our attention off the fact that the president of the United States, I believe, is a pedophile, has been a pedophile, and is deeply rooted into Jeffrey Epstein's organization, and that it's about to come out. And so I'm telling folks to expect things to get even worse. They're really going to reach, because whether you like it or not, the American people have a short memory. And whether you like it or not, the Charlie Kirk assassination next week will be gone out of the media. You may hear snippets about the alleged shooter, but folks are going to move on. And the scary part of that is, and we probably should have mentioned it, that there was a shooting in Colorado where young children were killed by another young, far right wing shooter. Nobody mourned for them. The Second Amendment comes into play again because folks will say now we don't even have to talk about school shooting. They're almost a regular daily occurrence. And you ever imagine that you would have children killed in grade school and you hear nothing about it on the news?
We're kind of jumping back to the shooting thing, but did you see where the senator, I think it was from Wisconsin, got killed, and her husband was it Wisconsin?
The
Okay.
state rep, I believe she was there, the speaker there. Was it
Nothing.
Wisconsin or Minnesota?
It might have been Minnesota. You didn't see the flags flown at half staff all across the country. You didn't see, JD Vance or Trump coming out, saying it was the leftists. You didn't see that kind of reaction.
Yeah, they asking why didn't he fly the flag half staff for the Democrat who was shot and killed in Minnesota. And first he said, I don't know. I don't remember hearing about that. Then he said, nobody asked me.
Yeah, the governor
But
didn't
if they
ask
ask him, he can't do it for everybody, or would always be half mad. The stupidest response from one of the stupidest presidents in the history of this world, let alone this country. Everything that people said he would do, he's doing, and the economy's in shambles, and he's still a pedophile. And he has to figure out a way to maintain the House and the Senate at the midterms, or he's in trouble. And he knows that. He's a desperate man, and he'll do anything.
especially a person that has the authority and the power that the office of president has.
Yes.
I think on this, people are putting signs up and saying the Epstein files aren't going away, and we're going to be heard. So I think even with all the distractions, and I agree with you, next week it's going to be something different. But with all the distractions, people are staying on the Epstein files. This would be an easy one for Trump if he was innocent. Make them available. Oh yeah, well, there's Bill Clinton in there. There's Joe Biden in there. Oh well, Kamala Harris is in there too. Well, be an easy one, but he won't because he's in there.
I also think that the First Lady's in there. She was in Epstein's Island. I believe that's where he met her at as a minor. They were dating. Even if it was some powerful leaders, they're not coming to justice in the United States. If it's Bill Clinton, put him in jail. Obama, put him in jail. If it's Donald Trump, get him out of the White House and put him in jail. There's only one place a pedophile belongs. The second place is jail.
I think prison would be a good place because even in prison, there's some ethics there, and they would have a very miserable life in prison. I'll leave it at that.
And I know that Kash Patel, the FBI director, who's testifying in front of the Congress today, and JD Vance are pedophile protectors. They know who's in there. They know what they did, and they still are going to protect pedophiles. It allows for them to stay in their positions. JD Vance might be hoping that Trump goes so he can ascend to the presidency because, and you heard this from me, because he'll never win an election because he's too soft and he kissed Trump's ass for too long. So the only way he'll ever be president is if something happens to Trump.
Listening to what you just said, the Republican representatives knows who's in that file, and they're facing the same dilemma. The Republican Party is going to be torn apart if this comes out and the facts are known. Whether any of the elected representatives were a part of that, I don't know, but it may be. If you're for law and order, how can you not vote to let those files be made public? Unless you're protecting your party or protecting yourself. Protecting your party over convicting pedophiles, that's unforgivable. Giving the message to pedophiles out in the country that it's okay to be a pedophile depending on how much money you have or who you are.
There's going to be so much coming out of those files. For them to go through all this, like you said, to protect their party, it has to be really earth-shattering. In addition to the fact that the president of the United States is a pedophile. How did we let the presidency of the United States be occupied by a felon, a pedophile, a racist, a sexist, a misogynist, and all of the above? It'll be really interesting to see how this week ends with the testimony in Congress and what folks have to say. I'm really looking forward to hearing the Attorney General from Florida speak. He'll be the most important speaker because he's the one that cut the sweetheart deal for Epstein.
Looking at that, you can say, all right, what can you or I or our viewers do? I'd say, in addition to being sure that we keep sending the message, we want the Epstein files out there unredacted, which will show, regardless of who you are or what party you belong to, what you've done. Don't call your senator, write your senator or email your senator and your representatives and say, why haven't you done the right thing? Why haven't you voted to release those files? Don't ask them to. Say, why haven't you done that? And say at the end, don't send me back one of those generic letters that says, I'm glad you contacted me, because all you're doing is avoiding me. I'm going to hold you accountable. That's when I think we can start putting some pressure and get enough votes, because they only need a couple more votes in the House to get the files public. And then look at other things that we can do, because I think that Trump is in panic, getting the people riled up over the KIRK killing. It's just a cover up to try to derail it. We just need to continue to stay on it. Right is right. Raping young girls and boys is wrong. And those people need to be held accountable. And as you said, regardless of who they are, regardless of how much money they have, regardless of the party they're in, it may shake up our political system, because there'll be people in there that will maybe shock us. There will be people in there that won't shock us. But let's hold politicians accountable. Saying that all politicians lie is not an excuse. The American public needs to hold the people they elect accountable.
One last thing on the Epstein file. I believe that you're going to find out that it continued after Epstein was initially arrested and after he was arrested the second time. It continued. The man died, but the apparatus that took young girls' youth from them continued. That part is going to be something to read, because that's the part where you have to look at yourself and say, these monsters are running among us, and they're still monsters, right? You don't just one day wake up and say, I'm going to stop being a pedophile. So if they were pedophiles then, what young women did they destroy since then? And what women are they destroying now? And what women or young girls are they going to want to destroy in the future?
I agree with you. It's going to continue, but part of it is look at the money that Epstein made by trafficking these underage children. I mean, he made money doing that.
He made a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think that the money was what he got out of it, and more as the power. He became the pimp. To me, the only person worse than the pimp is the Johns, or in this case, the Dons. I'm just hoping that we can get information out of those files that we can kind of at least start moving to get justice for those young girls. Take care of my brother. I'll see you next week.
Who knows what chaos is going to come between now and then.
I want to thank folks for watching this episode of Al's Joint. Don't forget to hit like, share, and subscribe, and leave your comments below. I want to know what you're thinking, unless you're a far right-wing MAGA nut, and I don't give a damn what you're thinking. Till next time, peace.
This episode of Al's Joint is brought to you by the Peabody Highlander 1975 through 1981 Class Reunion Committee.